Hello everyone, Mr. E here, and today we're talking lore. That means we're talking all of the connective tissue, everything that ties in my guess for the 6th playable character class, the Ganger, into the Darktide roster. If you didn't see why I think it might be the Ganger, check out yesterday's video. And I am joined today by someone who knows a lot about the lore in Darktide, and that is JoPlaysGames. Now, as a bit of a forewarning, Jo is slightly under the weather, but she has joined us here anyway. Say hi, Jo.
Hey, hello. He wasn't lying. I sound like death.
But it's actually just for the Halloween season, guys. So yeah, Spooky Jo has joined us here. Make sure you comment down below and wish her well. She says it isn't terminal, but we never know. With these things.
It probably isn't. I haven't gotten the test results back yet.
Yeah, it could be COVID too. It could be whatever's going on in Tertium. She might patient zero. We're hoping the best for her. Now, Jo is as I've said before, the lore mistress of Darktide. If you haven't checked out her channel, here it is. You should definitely go over there and check it out, especially if you're a mystery viewer and you really appreciate my Yaptide videos where I get really long-winded. We have a lot in common on that front, but she knows so much more about what is actually being done in the story in this game because it gets kind of crazy, and that is why she has her titular series. What's it called?
No, seriously. What the fuck is happening in Darktide?
Yeah, and but like when she enters it, then it sounds like it's like a little bit better sounding. She enters it.
Yeah, it doesn't sound quite as awful.
But yeah, great series. It really will keep you like kind of plugged in because the story, the Darktide, is like so disparate. It's spread across so many different mediums, and she knows so much more than I do on that front. So that's why I wanted to get her here today. Now, there's one other thing I wanted to get her here for today because in the interim since my video yesterday, or whenever this is going to be released, in my last video, I have actually found out what the new class is, but Jo does not know. And I think maybe at the end, we're going to tell her and get her live reaction. So we'll see. Now, let's go ahead and plunge into some interrogation about what this class is and what it's going to be doing in the game for our warband. Now, we're going off the assumption that it is the Ganger. I'm locking in on that one. We'll talk about Jo's potential picks at the end, what she thinks it really is. And also we'll, of course, hear her pitch for Gene Stealers, the classic Gene Stealer curveball she's going to throw us. But if it is Hive Gangers, Jo, what is the connection that Fat Shark could be making, or what is the connection narratively to our current cast of characters?
Well, I mean, honestly, Hive Gang seems like a pretty obvious pick. It doesn't really seem all that left field in a similar way that our BDs ultimately didn't. Because like with the Arbites, if you know Warhammer 40k lore, you know that Tersam being Atoma being a capital planet of the entire domain, and then Atoma specifically being the capital city of that planet, that there were going to be essentially a presence of the Adeptus Arbites there. And so kind of going off of that, Hive gangs are going to be present in every Hive city, on every Hive world. It's really not that big of a leap to be like, oh, there would definitely be some of them here. In fact, like we already know of one Hive gang and have like interacted with them and even know a member of that Hive gang in our warband, which is Explicator Zola from the Water Cartel. So introducing like essentially a Hive gang class isn't that big of a leap because like essentially they're just like the people of Tertium that are down on their luck, downtrodden, you know, fighting and scrapping for every inch of survival. So it makes sense that they would be down there and like living through this war that we're only getting to see parts and pieces of it at times.
Yeah, I think that all the other media, especially one very notable piece of media in the 40k sphere, Necromunda, I'm certain many of our viewers are pretty familiar with it, really heavily get into the Hive gang aspect of living in a Hive city. It's like almost like the defining characteristic of the Undercities. and it would not surprise me at all if it would be something they'd be interested in getting into. I think it would really help to flesh out the world and make it feel more lived in, because as it stands, I don't know if this applies to you, but it certainly applies to me. It just feels like this city is just full of enemies. It's
Yeah.
strange when they talk about like that there's actually still living allies, and that there's
Yeah.
still like House Margrave and like the the upper crust of the city that actually still are living in this city. I think from what we see as players in Darktide when we're in our missions is like the worst of the worst. And there's actually probably still quite a bit of like day-to-day life going on in the city, and maybe like bringing in the Hive gangs as a narrative device could like seek to sort of humanize that.
Yeah, essentially like really bridge that gap, because I completely agree. It's a case of anytime narratively, like whenever you're writing something or whenever you're making a movie or something like that, the objective that you're trying to achieve is show, don't tell. That's what you want to do, is you want to show your audience the experience, your world building, everything like that, and let them be able to like take that information, understand it, and like process it in their own way, rather than telling them in a flat out like prescribed to them way, like this is how things are now.
Mhm.
um and Darktide does a pretty good job at that overall, but one of the ways that I do think it is pretty weak is in where essentially the people of Tertium, like obviously we know a majority of like the Groaners and the Poxwalker enemies are actually citizens of Tertium that have been diseased and turned. But then like, we'll go through missions like Smelter Complex, and Hadron will have a line about like, it's or Zolars. Somebody will have a line about like it's a shift change right now, so like we're
Hmm.
between crews that are working here or
Oh,
whatever.
so like
But then like,
ostensibly we would have, like if we were at a different time when we started that mission, we would have run into like workers in the environment.
yeah, it's like yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah, that's
That'd be quite funny
yeah, that
if we had to
essentially,
like
like
pick our shots around civilians.
exactly, the whole area would just be like full of people or something like that, presumably. There are little moments like that, but it's very much a tell don't show kind of setup. um it very much feels like the sections of Tertium that we go
Yeah.
through have been abandoned,
Yeah.
and I mean for good reason. But then you also go through areas like the Carnival District and stuff like that, and whenever you're walking around and there's no like background music or no in-game music happening at the moment, if you go near some of the buildings, you'll hear like that electronic like rave music
Hmm.
like
Like
pulsing
there's stuff
somewhere in
going
the
on
distance.
inside. Yeah.
Exactly, like
I
somewhere there are people partying or something.
I wonder if it's like it's probably just like technical limitations that just don't want to add like more entities to the space. But I think that would be pretty cool if like that in the markets and stuff where because there's lots of like little market areas and things, especially in the carnival, that's supposed to be an area that's like lived in, that people are like, it's like the red light
Yes.
district where there's like lots of illicit dealings done and stuff. That's just the one-to-one equivalent, and yet it feels just as abandoned as everything else, which makes me think it's just kind of like, yeah, it must just be a technical limitation, maybe just even from a gameplay design standpoint, like they don't want to clutter the area with non-hostile NPCs. But it would be kind
Right.
of, I don't know if this sounds like sadistic or anything, but it would be kind of funny if like, we're just coming in and just killing everything and just gutting everything down, because that seems kind of what the Inquisition has been about lately. I suppose that actually does bring me to the next thing I wanted to talk about, which is we have this current ongoing in-game event, which is called Stolen Rations. And if you haven't played it in-game, all you got to do is go and collect the rations or destroy the rations. Mystery followers are bound by duty to destroy the rations. And that means, depending on what you do on any given day, it either summons more corrupted sort of cult of admonition types like the tentacled poxwalkers or mutants or chaos spawns. And then if you destroy more of the rations, then you end up with the people rioting. So you end up with, I think it's like more captains and more Mobian Sixth. So my position on this when I talked about it in my last video was that I think since this is like the first event we've had where we've actually had some interactivity, it really does sort of point me towards thinking that whatever this character class is must be something to do with like resolving this conflict, right? And especially because this event ends the day before the character class is going to be revealed. What do you think?
Yeah, so I was gonna say, personally, given the fact that this is the first like community driven event, and granted, ultimately it seems that story wise, one way or the other, whether we destroy them, whether we recover them, the people of Tertium are still essentially being turned heretical either way, ultimately at the end of the day. But given that this is the first like big community driven event, there's like a specific gate engagement point, everything like that. That's unique. We've never seen Fat Shark do that before. And then literally the day before the class gets announced, this event ends. I have also had I'm like I will not be surprised at all,
Mhm.
if the class ends up being related. And the fact that it's centered around essentially like this whole supply train has been raided by the heretics, the rations stolen. This was meant for the people of Tertium to feed them. Um, it's very centered on the people of Tertium. I think it makes perfect sense that the result would be that we would see them come out of the woodwork and be like, "What the hell's going on?"
Yeah, that was my like, I, you know, I don't know the most about lore, but that was like the biggest lore connection I could make is like, if you were a hive gang, then this would really be a big problem for you because it's like to have your people be rioting in the streets is just not good for business at any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, I
And
know. In the short that I did, where I was like, I won't be surprised if it's connected. I think that some people took that and ran with it and was like, "Oh, it's confirmed that it's connected."
mhm,
And then some people have also taken that and been like, "Oh, well, it has to be like a ratling class because ratlings are
rattlings like
basically
rations.
hobbits and they like to eat a lot." Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, "Oh, well, it's stolen rations, so that's going to make the ratlings come out." But personally, I think that's running with it in a bit of a different direction than what I honestly don't know if this is actually intended or not. But I think that focusing like essentially on the citizens of Tertium is probably the intended
Yeah.
story direction for that, not necessarily being like, oh, well, try to think of like who might want to eat a lot of rations.
Yeah, that is sort of a stretch. I definitely think that, especially because this is like the first event where, um, it's not just solved by us like going and killing everybody. Like there's kind of a knock-on effect to our actions. It definitely seems like they're trying to push us in the direction of like, oh yeah, there's a problem here that you can't solve with force. That it's like, and like the problem is being caused by how it appears to the citizens. This is something that they didn't really explore enough in the description of the event. I was looking around for like more details on it. I was trying to figure out like, are is like the Inquisition like shipping down like rations to keep these people out of like starvation, or like, like where do these? I guess this was maybe
So
Morningstar. Do you know?
most likely it wouldn't actually be the warband or anything like that themselves. It would most likely come from essentially the administratum.
Hmm.
And the administratum is the branch of like the entire government for like the entire imperium of mankind that oversees like, the astra militarum. They oversee the collecting of tithes for non-religious purposes, things like that. So most likely, since they're like the bean counters, the bureaucrats, they're the bureaucrats. Most likely this shipment of food has probably come from some combination of like essentially Lord Margrave's local government direction working with the administratum, something like that, to
Hmm.
essentially, have continuing shipments of supplies, food, things like that to the different sectors of Tertium, even during a time of war.
It's it's kind of crazy, and like that's something that again is kind of lost in the gameplay of Darktide. It's kind of crazy to think that like Tertium is still a city that like is functioning in that way, that there's people are like buying and selling and going about their daily lives, that there's functional like governmental assistance for people. But I guess that
Yeah.
that is true. Like it's not, if it was like fully a lost cause, if this entire city was completely infected like what we see, like I don't think we would be there trying to do the job we're doing. I think that like the scale of the outbreak is bad, but not like end game sort of bad, right?
Tertium is also as far as I'm aware, so there are, I think, a couple hive cities that are huge to the scale that Tertium is in the 40K setting. But for the most part, Tertium is massive, even for a hive city, even by hive city standards. Um, the reason why it's actually called Tertium isn't because it's like the third hive city on Atoma, like a lot of people assume. It's actually because Tertium, there were 3 separate hive cities within proximity to each other that all grew so large that they essentially
Huh.
grew into each other. And that's where the name Tertium comes from, is essentially like the union of these formerly 3 separate hive cities that just grew so massive that they just grew into each other
It
as
just
like one
seems like really poor
indiscernible
planning, but
entity.
I don't think there's too much of the hive cities that are really like well planned out. They're just like
I
big
mean,
piles,
yeah.
effectively.
Well, and also like poor planning could be like the slogan for the entire Imperium. Like it just no, it's a
Yeah.
fucking mess.
I
The
mean,
right hand never knows what the left hand is
and
doing.
good luck planning out anything that is like going on for like thousands of years. I think that like Tertium, or rather Atoma Prime, has been part of the Imperium for how much? Is it 10,000 years at this point, or 5,000? I was reading on this at some
Um,
point.
I think it actually might be more than 10,000. I want to say, so I know that Luton, he's a huge just Warhammer lore guy in general. A lot of
Yeah.
you probably know who Luton is. He did a video that Fat Shark actually asked him to do before the game came out, where he gave some information about Atoma
Mhm.
specifically, like the setting and everything. And it's been a while since I've watched that, but I want to say that uh, Atoma started being colonized during a time whenever like faster than light travel wasn't even possible. I
It
think they
so
may have been like a long haul.
as I remember, it was like Atoma was colonized, and then like the this is where my 40K knowledge falls in. But like, is there like a dark age effectively where like
Yeah,
connection
the Age
to
of
the outer,
Strife.
yeah, so like the Age of Strife hit, and like connection to a lot of these outer colonies was lost, and then it was reconnected in, only somewhat recently, like a couple millennia
During
ago.
the Emperor's like crusade and
Correct.
everything.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
when, and I think initially, like Atoma wasn't like the seat of power in the system, and then they have now like promoted it to be such because of its resources and Mobian steel and stuff. But it's yeah, it's pretty cool to like, think about on the cosmic scale of all the stuff. But I guess we should zoom back in and get back on topic. But this is what you guys watch us for, I suppose. It's just for us to get completely sidetracked. I want to talk more about just the water cartel. I know you mentioned that Zola has an interface with them. I've certainly watched your What the Fuck is Going On with Dark Tide series, but maybe some other people haven't. What is Zola's relationship there? And how could she perhaps maybe make this into an alliance of sorts?
So Zola actually used to work for the Water Cartel before she came into the service of Grendel in the Inquisition. That is Zola's origin story, is that she was essentially a former criminal who lived in the torrent. Whenever you live in the torrent, to get by, you basically either just live in sewage and you just accept that that's your life, or
Mhm.
you join up with a gang and you try to essentially climb the ladder, get money, get something better for yourself. Zola was actually one of the Ragged King's like favored operatives, and she probably could have had a very nice position for herself long term had she not been essentially skimming money off the top and shorting that essentially Hive Gang leader. So he put a price out on her head, and around that time, um, Rannick came down to the torrent himself to try and recruit Zola, and basically like warned her the Ragged King has it out for you, and she was like, get fucked, I don't believe you. And so he left without her and told her, like, if you ever, if you ever change your mind, this is how you can get a hold of us. Then it turned out Rannick was right. The Ragged King sent out a hitman essentially, who also Zola had already killed. But the water cartel essentially made a deal with Admonition and started working with them. So, presumably, Ermal essentially resurrected this dude that Zola had killed,
Ew.
and the Ragged King sent him after her to kill her. And so then Zola was like, "Oh shit, I don't have a way out of this situation. I have like my only way out is to join the Inquisition."
Yeah.
Most of the water cartel, essentially, whenever Admonition didn't have use for them anymore, Admonition turned on them and killed most of them. Now, before that happened, there were essentially different parts of the water cartel that were like, fuck the Ragged King. We don't want to like pay our portion to him or whatever. And so there were splinters of the water cartel that had already split off and essentially like would always have wars within each other. So there are presumably some amount of them still left alive somewhere in Tertium. We could be looking at like a sect of the water cartel, something like that, and they probably would at least know Zola's name,
Yeah.
if not know her personally.
Did Zola, as I remember, did Zola like return once she was like hooked up with the Inquisition and just kill the Ragged King? Is that part of the? Am I remembering that correctly?
So I don't think that she actually killed him, but she did go with Brunt,
Right, Brunt.
down, yeah, down
And
back
they
to
at
the
least
torrent
torture him,
to
right?
essentially, yeah, to torture him. And she called it official Inquisition business because whenever she was there torturing him, she was also questioning him, and she was like, "So basically, fucko, if any of your like friends, any of your weird cultist friends or anything like that," she's like, basically, "I want to know everything you do. I want to know every movement you make. You're going to tell me everything I ever want to know, or else I'm going to come back here with Brunt and we're going to break more of your bones." And so that's how we know, like, that's what we're aware of what Zola did with him. Now, as far as like how he died, because we do know that he died, presumably it's actually the heretics, like either Admonition or the Mobian Six, that killed him,
Okay.
because one of the first Vox intercepts, so essentially like the where they started the Vox series, where we're overhearing conversations with characters,
Hmm.
just before the Orthus offensive mission itself came out. There was a Vox intercept with Roden and Rinda Karnak, where Roden is hanging out in essentially the Ragged King's court. He's called, he's established himself as the new Ragged King. And Rinda comes to him and she's like, "Hey, Wolfer is telling us that we need to go to like this place at the torrent at this time to like ambush the rejects." And he's like, "Oh, well, you come here and you tell me what to do." And I'm like, "The Ragged King." And she goes, "Yeah, and you know how that turned out for the last one." So
Okay.
it seems to be implied that like either they or Admonition, somebody on the heretical side, had a hand in actually bumping him off.
Right. So is the like it sounds like the water cartel is scattered to the wind. There might be some like small like fraction factions bars that are still out there. Are there any other like gangs or gang affiliated types that we might be able to pull from? Because what I imagine, and I think we talked about this before, not during the video, but when we got to pick our backstory for our classes, we have like the origin story and what crime you're convicted of. For the Arbites, you get to pick what precinct you're part of. I think we both sort of agree that if it is a gang, it would make a ton of sense to be able to pick your gang affiliations and like what sort of like styles and stuff you can pick as a result.
Yes. If this class did end up being a Hive Gang class, I would assume that that would be part of like your background. So just like with the Arbites, with the precinct fortress, you could choose, the largest precinct fortress. You could choose the makeshift one that was down in the torrent. There are a few other options to choose from. So I would presume that while there won't necessarily be like a specific gang that's like a well-known one from Necromunda or something like
Oh yeah,
that,
they're definitely
there
not going to be
may
able to steal from
there
that, but
Yeah. But there may be options that essentially, like kind of nod or reference those
Right.
things. But for the most part, I would expect that any like formal gangs by name or something like that would be things that are going to be specifically unique to Darktide.
Are there any other ones that are mentioned like in I don't know. This is not like a leading question, but are there any ones that are mentioned like in the main game? I know that there's the Death and Glory like module that does have a bunch of gang names, but is there anything that's actually
Oh
in
boy.
Darktide that we might be pulling from?
In the actual Darktide game itself, oh, there might be something in a cosmetic description or something. I do know that like obviously we have like the chem dog. Well, actually the chem dogs aren't gangs, but I know that there are a few gang like cosmetic sets. I think there's like mostly just the one for Ogren. Um, but there might be something in like a cosmetic or something like that, especially one of the premium ones that like, names
Hmm.
either a known gang member in Tertium or a known gang. I personally don't know of any off the top of my head other than the Water Cartel.
Yeah.
Um, but there could be.
I pulled up the list while we were talking. They have the Abyss Stalkers, Clan Mechanicus, Durkham's Raiders, Rattlebone, Roustabouts, Sump Dock Gang, Throne Lane Regulars, Water Cartel, and Wings of Heliosis. That's what's in the Darktide extraction for Blood and Glory or whatever it's called. So potentially those could be something on the table. It'd be pretty cool if like they do have like just like how when you pick like Cadian backgrounds, you get different like I believe you get different skin colors and eye colors, and I don't know if you get different hairstyles, etc. But yeah,
Yeah, I would hope that if they do Hive Gangs, that we're finally gonna get some cooler hairstyles and also
hmm
some like vibrant colors or something like that, because that's always on my wish list for games.
that was actually something that I didn't include in my video because I was looking for like ways to tie this to gangers, and someone like a year ago data mined or like was able to use a mod to show that they have added some variant hair colors to the game, like some very vibrant like greens, reds, and purples, and all that,
Ooh.
and then like some like crazy top knots and uh, yeah, like some very punk hairstyles, and people were saying like, "Oh, it's Ganger," but that was like a year ago, and it still hasn't been added to the game. So I thought that might be a little bit too spurious to add at the time, but I'm pretty confident on my pick as far as that. Is I think we've kind of talked about that. I do want to talk about we know what's coming for the update, right? On the second, we're getting a new operation map that is trench warfare. What does this have to do with the new class? Like anything, or what is this? What does this got to do with the story? While I've got you here, do you have any idea or thoughts?
So, I mean, obviously, I don't know. I don't know anything. But if I had to
Pretend you
guess,
know.
okay, I will pretend that I know. So here's something interesting. Um, hang on a second, I'm gonna have some water.
Okay,
Let's see if I can help this
guys,
voice.
water break. Okay, I'm
Um,
leaving this in. Everyone, take a drink of water right now.
yeah, everybody hydrate right
I'm
now.
drinking cherry Pepsi. That
Um,
counts as water, right, guys?
that absolutely does not count as Pepsi, or sorry, not as Pepsi, as water. It counts very much as Pepsi,
Cherry
but not
Pepsi
as
isn't
water.
Pepsi.
It is. It is. Okay, so Mortis Trials. The most recent Mortis Trial memories that we got, it was pretty short and sweet. But there was one really key piece of information. So each set of Mortis Trial memories, I feel like sets up at least one foundational like piece of background information that will be important for either a character or like what this is, what I always ask myself with Mortis Trials memories with different chapters. I'm like, why the fuck is this here? Why does Fat Shark feel the need to tell us this about something that happened in the past for this character?
Yeah, there's always some justification, right?
Yeah. And you know, this last set had me scratching my head for a while. I was like, okay, sure. That's interesting. I do think that we gleaned a lot about Rannick from it. But something else that eventually I was like, oh, I think that's actually more what the point was. Is that so the first set of memories chronologically in those ones is Zola's memories about what she was doing just before the Orthus offensive happened. And essentially, she was sneaking down planet side. She was trying to get strike teams down there planet side off the books, doing things behind Rainik's back and stuff like that. And Morrow found out.
Mhm.
He was like, "You're not very good at like keeping this off the record, keeping this off the books." And so he essentially helped her learn how to do that better. And that is part of what led us to the Orthus offensive eventually. We then find out in Morrow's memories for that set of Mortis trial memories that essentially that like clerk, whatever her position is on the Morning Star, that Morrow has kind of started using almost as like a spy for him essentially. She tells him, "You were right. Explicator Zola has been planet side about a dozen times since that business at the Cathedrum." And what that's referencing is the last full-length mission that we had in Darktide, the Dark Communion.
Post-Dark
Where,
Communion, she's been down there still?
yes, she has
Previously,
been
she was down
down
there
planet
hunting
side.
because she wants to find Wolfer, right? Wolfer is her brother, as I remember from watching your videos. Spoilers, I guess, for like
Wolfer,
3-year-old
yeah.
content at this point.
Wolfer is most likely Zola's brother. Zola had a brother named Tiburon Zola. Wolfer's name, his first name we know is Byron.
Yeah.
So Byron is definitely short for Tiburon, in my opinion.
Yet another thing that was
We
confirmed by
also-
cosmetics, right? I remember being like, just like slapping my forehead when you showed that. It's like written in the description of a cosmetic.
I mean, again, they have nothing that actually goes and spells it out yet.
Right.
But there was that trinket cosmetic with the prayer from OZ, Augustine Zola, for someone named Byron, the safety of someone named Byron who's out on the war front.
Mhm.
We also know that Zola's brother Tiburon was tithed and sent into the Astra Militarum. And then also, even before any of this, we did already know that Zola and Wolfer must know each other personally, because there was another Vox intercept.
Yes.
Where essentially Zola comes up and, comes face to face with Rinda Karnak, or close to face with her. And Rinda yells something about how she's like, "I know you're out there, Zola. Wolfer said you had guts. I want to see them up close." So for Wolfer to tell Rinda anything about Zola, he would have to know her. Like,
Zola's like an absolute nobody in the grand scheme of things, unless he like knows her personally. Yeah, even though like what was her role on the Tancred Bastion? Like, because Wolfer was held there, but like I don't think she was anybody that would have like been interfacing with him for any reasonable amount of time. I don't think that's where they start their relationship at all.
No. That's actually, so Rainik actually sent Zola to the Tanker Bastion. It's in the very first set of Mortis trial memories. I think about midway or 3/4 of the way through Zola's memories specifically. Rainik says that an arch heretic has been picked up by the Adeptus Arbites on a ship called the Tanker Bastion. I want to talk to him, Zola. You go out there, get him, and bring him to me.
Gotcha. And this is maybe pre when she knew that it was Byron.
Yeah, so honestly, that I think that essentially Zola going to the Tankard Bastion, seeing, like the prisoner roster, Byron Wolfer, looking at him face to face in the eyes, I think that that's where...
Or what's left of his face, yeah.
Yeah, what's left of his face. I think that that's where essentially Zola, because I mean, like, his face is so fucked up beyond recognition at this point, that it would make sense why she wouldn't be like, "Oh my God, that's my brother," just immediately. Yeah. He would recognize her, and we also know that Wolfer left her alive for some reason on the Tankard Bastion that we've never known why.
Right.
Well, that's his sister, so that's why he left her alive. Again, short of Fat Shark finally, like giving us some kind of narrative, dump in a mission or something where Zola literally says the words, "Wolfer is my brother," or something like that. Like, we still don't have 100% confirmation.
I don't know. Like, yeah.
But I really don't see anything else that it could be at this point.
The reveal that it's going to be some sort of like trench warfare thing is like, it just seems so out of left field for me. It made me immediately like, question my guess. I was like, what the hell does like a Hive Gang have to do with this? But I think maybe it's just not related at all. Maybe it's related more to the story that's being told there. And like maybe
Well,
Zola's found herself in like a sticky stitch and we gotta get her out, or I don't know.
so
Or maybe it's
what
just
I'm
a fun little
thinking
thing.
what I'm thinking is probably because again the Mortis trial thing, so it starts out setting up like, okay, before the Orthus offensive, Zola was going planet side a bunch, sending strike teams down there a bunch, doing a whole bunch of things behind people's backs. That in Morrow's memories, the big thing that we find out is Zola is back on her bullshit. Zola is
Hmm.
doing this again. She's going down there planet side herself. And what Morrow specifically says in response to the information that Zola has been doing this at least a dozen times since the whole cathedral thing, is Morrow says she's picking at Wolfer like the scab he is. So Morrow is certain that she's going down there again, hunting Wolfer
Yeah,
down
she's on
specifically.
his trail. Maybe there's even like a confrontation with him in this mission. Like that would be pretty
So
cool.
what I'm thinking is that this operation is going to be probably something in the vein of the Orthus offensive. Maybe
Hmm.
not like setting wise or anything like that, but essentially like the catalyst for it. Maybe it's that Zola is in danger and we have to go get her, because I know that that was something that people speculated on a lot back before the Orthus offensive came out. Fat Shark did like a word puzzle thing, and everybody was like trying to decrypt
Oh
it and
yeah,
everything.
I
I
saw
was
that.
doing that too. And so people were like, oh shit, maybe it's that Zola's in danger. So there's always been like a big interest in like a rescue mission kind of
Hmm.
mission in Darktide. But I personally think that uh this coming operation will probably hinge around Zola. I will not be surprised if it ends in another boss fight, because we have also had Rinda's story and her ascension into the Herald of Admonition left hanging for more than a year
Oh
now.
my god, yeah, I forgot
Um,
about that.
yeah. So there's all these different parts and pieces, and now we also know that Zola has been doing the exact same shit that she was doing before the Orthus offensive. So in my opinion, I feel like that was a bit of a primer to be like, oh, remember whenever this happened again, or like before? Well, it's happening again.
Hmm.
So get ready, because we're gonna be, on another mission that maybe we shouldn't have necessarily been going on.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Well, with all that being said, I suppose I'll turn it over to you and give us your pitch. What do you think it is? I mean, you've heard my arguments, and most of my viewers have heard my arguments as to why I think it's a ganger. What in your heart of hearts do you think it is, and what do you want it to be? And you know, of course, we're gonna hear. Is it gonna be Gene Stealers? Is it gonna be Gene Stealers?
So in my heart of hearts, what I want it to be is I would love for it to be an AdMech class. I think that the only way that that would happen for this class, um, is honestly something that I hope doesn't happen, because you mentioned Cult Mechanicus in the list of gangs from the
Mhm.
Wrath and Glory module. I think that that's really the only direction that it could go in, because ever since essentially this whole event, the stolen rations thing came out and everything, and how heavily tied in it is to essentially the people of Tertium, Hive Gang has become my number one most likely candidate for what will be coming out.
Okay.
And that is genuinely what I've been thinking since the rations event came out. Now, I personally would love for it to be AdMech, but
Me
like
too. Me
proper
too.
Adeptus
Yeah.
Mechanicus. I don't want to see like essentially a Hive Gang type mechanical cult. I want to see like proper AdMechs.
Full on, yeah, like
Um,
crazy tech. Like they need to bring some
yeah, yeah,
Martian
yeah.
tech in here, and yeah, that I mean, I made a video about that previously. That would be so cool. As like I can imagine how geeked out all the devs would be like making something like that, because like a ganger, you're still gonna have a lot of the normal martial weapons that we have. Certainly, if it's a gang, then they're gonna do their absolute best to make it interesting. They're not gonna push out something that's like not the best that they have, right? But like an AdMech has so many cool things at their disposal. There's so many different directions you could go with that, and I don't think it'd be that hard to like lure it into existence.
Oh, no. Well, especially since we know now of Cult Mechanica's existence
Right.
through Wrath and Glory. All of that is canon to Darktide as far as I'm aware.
I mean, if it was in that
Um,
book, yeah, I got approved somehow by GW, which is the ultimate litmus test for anything becoming Darktide material.
yeah, yeah, but, to is it Gene Stealers? The thought has crossed my mind because
Make the
there's the whole,
connection.
like, so there well, just, like, 1, yeah, at this point, I'm, like, contractually obligated to,
Mhm.
but 2, also, there was the whole thing with, like, the codename Broker. Well, that thing was actually put into the game, as far as I'm aware, actually back whenever Secrets of the Machine God came out, so that was the Clandestine Gloriana mission where Swagger got introduced.
Mhm.
And now narratively there are these lines that are happening about Swagger, our psychers, our player character psychers saying like, I can't get a read on him, I can't get a read on his mind, and Stephanie also saying the same thing, that like she cannot get into his mind, and those are actually like very much characteristics
Yeah,
of somebody who's in a gene stealer cult, because essentially like their psychic
yeah,
connection
their
would
waves aren't
be,
the same as like what she can
it would
normally
be
pry
connected
into.
with their patriarch, and essentially like uh Tyranids have they have what's called the shadow in the warp, so essentially it like disrupts psychers and everything like that.
Yeah, that's like one
um
of the craziest parts about them showing up. That's the way like the first alarm bells that they're showing up, right? Is like the warp just gets all
well, yeah,
discombobulated.
and essentially like psychers start freaking the fuck out and stuff
More than
like that.
normal. Yeah.
Yeah, more than normal, like significantly more than normal. So, of course, I'm like, shit. I could also see, since Gene Stealers, if they did become a player enemy, or sorry, a player enemy, a game enemy,
I guess
essentially
that
another
makes sense
faction,
still, yeah.
um, another faction, them being really difficult to bring in, and
Mhm.
have them like a whole faction fighting another faction, stuff like that. So I could see a way that maybe Fat Shark would just be like, "Fuck it, we'll just make him player characters," or something like that,
Yeah.
so that it makes sense
It
that they're
would be
fighting the
cool if they
heretic.
were like werewolf style classes where you had like a rage mode. You could like awaken your like like latent
Oh my
genes and
god,
like grow it.
that would
Yeah,
be
I'm
amazing.
certain they could make it some pretty cool stuff out of it
But,
if it were
it's
done.
just like I can't say never. And obviously it has crossed my mind. That is one of my like, ha ha, it totally won't be that picks for like a mini series that I'm gonna do leading up to the class announcement once my voice is unfucked. But do I actually think it's gonna be Gene Stealers this time as a player class? Probably not.
Probably not. Oh man, no. There went a bunch of like probably like 1,000, 2,000 people unsubscribing from Joe Plays Games.
I
They're just fed up at this point. Where's the Gene Stealers, Joe?
don't know. I'm sorry.
Well, I believe that's about all we have to discuss, but Joe has said that she wants to know what the next class is going to be at. And of course, no spoilers for those of you that are watching this right now, because we are strictly under NDA. So you won't get to hear what it is, but she will, and we'll get to hear her unfiltered filtered reaction. Are you ready, Joe? You sure you want to know what it is?
Oh God. Uh yeah. Yeah, tell
Okay.
me.
It's female Ogren.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, I'm fucking kidding you. It's
God damn it. I was like, there's no fucking way. Shut the fuck up. Yeah.
how great would that be?
Oh my God. That would have been ridiculous.
Well,
Oh man. You buried the lead really well there because I was like, shut the fuck
gotta
up. There is
do
no fucking
one
way.
more bait and switch. Yeah, it's just Ogren, but packing a little bit extra chest armor.
God, that'd be so funny.
It'd be pretty great. Yeah, maybe that's the April Fools they'll should release for us. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me, Joe, and thank you so much for everyone for watching. Stay
Hey, thank you
tuned.
for having me.
Yeah, awesome. Anytime. We will do many more collaborations, especially once your voice recovers. We gotta get some more yap out there for our loyal fans.
Hell yeah.
All right, and make certain you are subscribing to both Joe Plays Games and I. She's linked in the description, and check back here and on her channel for more content about the upcoming release. And we'll see you then. Bye bye.